started.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is our third session on the CBAP
I'm
since
not
the
even hearing it say recording in progress. Let me check something else. Let me play something that's I know is going to be a sound
yeah, I
and check
tested
because it might
my
just totally be my speakers.
okay. Hello, hello, hello. Mic
Wouldn't
testing.
that be horrible?
Mic testing.
I
One, two.
can't hear that either. Oh no.
Oh
It's
gosh.
probably my speakers. Um, okay, stay on the call. I'm going to
Okay.
make you co-host so that you can keep the call open in case anybody else tries to join because I don't want them to panic,
Oh,
right? So I'm going to
yeah.
make you co-host. I'm going to get out and restart my computer. Okay?
I was wondering if I should restart my system
I
as
don't
well.
know. No,
Hmm.
I think it's me because I just tried to play a YouTube video and I can't hear it.
Okay,
So
okay.
I'm
I'll
gonna
hang in here
I'm gonna
until you.
restart my computer. Just stay here
Okay.
and greet
Mhm.
people whenever they come in. There's only two,
Sure.
maybe three people. Okay?
Okay.
I'll be
Yeah.
right back. All right.
Hi, Thea. Any
I
luck?
I just jumped on my other computer. This works just
Okay.
fine. All right.
And I'm audible now?
I can hear you. This is much, much better. I'm so glad.
So this is the third time I've apologized, but hopefully you hear it this time around.
No need to apologize. It's absolutely fine. I'm so glad that you joined the class.
Yeah.
Let me go through just a little bit of housekeeping. Let me see. We are recording. Okay.
Mhm.
So today is March 14th, just so we have that at the beginning of the recording. You do have your Babok 3.0, your book, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And did you get a physical copy or are you still working PDF?
No, I have ordered for it. I think it should take about 10 days, given that it has to come from Germany.
That's
Yeah.
fine. That's fine.
Okay.
There is a Slack channel. Wait, now this one started. Let me see if I can get in here because all my Slack stuff is on this computer. Uh,
Mhm.
I feel like we're playing games. It's like, do I look here? Do I look here? It's all right. Sign in, meetings. Let me see if I can join here.
Mhm.
And I'm going to mute this one so there's no echo.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
There's a lot of echo now.
Okay, how about this?
Yep. It's clear.
Wait, say something else.
Crystal clear. I hear you.
I
One
can't
time.
hear you on this computer. I'm going back to the other one. It's all right.
Okay.
This is, you know what? We learn how to pivot as
Yeah,
business
yeah, yeah.
analysts. This
That's
is
okay.
part of
Right.
us.
Yep.
Recording in progress.
Your voice is echoing now.
Okay. Mm.
Lot of echo.
Can you hear me now? Is the echo gone?
Yeah, now it's good.
Okay, I'm going to use this computer and talk on this computer. That works well. It's
Okay.
crazy, but we can get it done. Okay,
Mm.
perfect. Look at us being innovative. Okay, so recording is going on. So we got to record all of that wonderfulness. Let me show you some things that the way we're running this class, and I had everything open, and now I get to open it again. So Slack, are you familiar with Slack? Have you worked Slack before?
Not really, no. I'm
Okay,
aware of it, but I haven't really used it hands-on.
okay. Uh,
I think we have one other member who's joined us.
yeah, that's awesome. Make this bigger. Oh, that's just me.
Ah,
I've
you're
got two
okay. Got
computers.
it. Okay. Clear now. Okay.
Okay. So let me share my screen with you.
Mm-hmm.
Which screen? You know, how we handle challenges is a big indicator of who we are, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is my Slack, and this is basically, you know how in SharePoint you could put a file in there and share it?
Yeah.
And then in Teams you can put messages in and you can see the messages. Well, this is your class. And
Okay.
so you could put a message in here, and I'll add you to this. But you
Uh-huh.
can put a message in here, and the whole team will see it if you put it in this one. Or
Okay,
you,
it's more of a group chat. Okay.
yeah, it's a group chat. Or you can
Mm.
go, you can put my name up here
Mm.
and open me up and send a message just to me. So
Okay.
I'll see it either way. Um, but let me show you what's in this. First of all, this is how we're running the course. Can you read that? It's a little bit small. I'll tell you what it is. Um,
Okay.
I've got recordings of chapter 1 and 2 whenever we kind of went over that. And I've got practice test questions for 1 and 2. And I also have a document that's unexpected terms. All of this is in Slack in the file repository. So you have
Um,
access to it. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, have I already missed this first session, Thea?
Yes,
The
ma'am.
chapter 1 and 2. So there's a recording which I can run through?
There, yes, I've got a recording. Actually, the recording of the other class is better than the recording of this class because we had more people in it,
Okay.
and the audio quality and everything is better. So I have all
Mm.
that ready for you too.
Okay. All
So
right. Perfect.
you're
Mm-hmm.
going to be able to catch up easily. I just want
Okay.
you to understand the structure of the class as it is now. See, can I
Okay.
make it a little bit bigger? So we
Perfect.
did chapters 1 and 2, and I gave it's a handout that has information, and it's almost a replacement for the Babok. Not really, but it's got a lot of the information from chapters 1 and 2 in there. And then
Mm.
it's got practice test questions. Let me just open it, close this. If you go up here to file repository,
Mm.
and then here is, let's see, text, chapters 1 and 2. Here we go.
Okay.
So it is, here are is the way it's laid out.
Mm-hmm.
And then here are some stakeholder roles you need to, you're, there's a finite number of stakeholders in the Babok. It's not going
Mm-hmm.
to add, some fancy thing. This is the list. And you need to know what each role is generally. And
Mm-hmm.
then as we get deeper, some of these will have specific roles in task. In this task, it's the regulator's job to do this thing. Or in this task, it's QA's job to do this thing. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
the difference between requirements and designs is really important to the Babok.
Mm-hmm.
And please remember that we had a bunch of volunteers from all over the world writing this, and we didn't really coordinate perfectly. So
Okay.
the way that one team wrote one chapter and the next team wrote the next chapter might not be perfectly consistent, but this is something that we're going to hit in, I think it's chapter 7.
Mm,
But it's better to start thinking about it this way now. Requirements are the needs of the business, and
mm,
designs are usable representations of the solution. So it's like you're looking at the need or you're
mm.
looking at the solution.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, let's just keep going. So here's the answer sheet for you to fill out, and then here's the first question. Whoop, here's the first question. Here's the possible answers. And
Mm,
then you fill out your answer sheet and you go on down. Here's the answer. So you can tell immediately what the answers are. Um,
mm.
are you
Okay.
are you familiar how to be able to put your answer sheet on one page, one side of your screen, and the
Well,
questions on the other? Just
yep,
make
I should.
another instance.
Yeah.
It just download this and it's yours. Um,
Okay.
so I've got all these questions in here, and it goes to question.
So the exam format of the questions will pretty much be the same, right? I mean,
Oh
similar
yeah, it's
MCQs.
exactly the same. It's
Yeah.
it's all multiple choice in the exam, and that's one reason I did it this way. So you
Mm,
have your multiple choice questions, and then let me go back to this. So you got the practice test questions for chapters 1 and 2. Then we're going to jump to chapter 9, and that's practice test questions also. Chapter 9 is underlying competencies. I got to write that chapter, but it's things like active listening. What are the signs that you're doing active listening well? Success criteria kind of. It's important because these two blocks and a little bit of chapter 11 are the basis for the whole rest of the BABOK. Um, this here, chapters 3 through 8, this is what you're going to be tested on, but it sits on top of these other things.
mm,
I also have in here unexpected terms, which is the way that some of the words are used in the BABOK may not be what you would expect. And it's better to have that knowledge before you read it in the BABOK and go, what is this? How,
mm.
or assume that you have a different meaning for it. So that document's in here too. And we're going to be going through watermark test questions with everything in the knowledge areas.
Mm.
And we do it very systematically. And then once we get all the way through, we start doing, chapter 8 plus chapter 7, chapter 8 plus chapter 7, chapter 6, just adding it back in because when you're
Mm.
tested, it's over the whole thing and it's random. It's not in groups.
Okay.
We also have 50 groups of techniques in chapter 10. And
Wow.
it's a lot. And some of those techniques
Yeah.
have 3 different techniques in them. It's like
Mm.
um, the roles and permissions matrix, where you say the administrator can do these things, but a user can do these things.
Okay.
Or that also has the RACI in it,
Uh-huh.
the RACI.
Yeah.
Um, so what I did is I put 5 or 6 techniques in each group and made these first 2 are the easiest ones. This one kind of goes along with what you would want to use in chapter 3, in my opinion. And then this one is for chapter 4. These 2 are chapter 5. This one's going to be all the diagrams,
Mm.
crow's foot notation and cardinality. And then chapter 6, 7, and 8. And chapter 8 is all the financial calculations that you might need for the test. So
Mm.
I've gotten 1 through 5 in there now. I'm working on chapter 6 right now. I mean, sorry, group 6.
Mhm.
So that my goal is that as you finish this part, and as you finish this part, and we start working here, that you'll do one of these a week. It's just 5 techniques. It's important
Okay.
that you read the technique in the Babok though, because
Mhm.
there are details in there that it's like that one sentence, there's going to be a question about it.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to, uh,
Sorry,
yes, go
Thea,
ahead.
one question from the diagram. So, what is the current status like? As in, I have missed 2 classes since you started already, right? So,
I
what
think
has
you
been
missed two
covered already?
classes. We're going to be working on test questions for chapter 3.
Okay. Okay.
So I don't expect that within 1 week you're going to be able to do all of this, and
Yeah.
all of this. I'm just,
Okay. I've lots
if
to
you
catch up with
can,
already. Yeah.
no, if you can catch up in the next 2 weeks, it'll be fine.
Mm.
Because I
Okay.
want you to be able to answer practice test questions for chapter 3 with us. Um,
Mm. Okay.
and you're going to have the recordings from the other class where they're answering practice test questions, so you can watch that
Okay.
and gain a lot of knowledge. Um,
Okay.
and I'd
So,
like, by the
do you
time we get
recommend?
to chapter
Sorry.
4, I want you to
Mm.
be with us so
Yes,
that you
yes.
can answer questions with us.
Okay. So, sorry, one question. So, you suggest I run through the material, the recording for the chapters, and then I attempt the practice test questions by myself, and then I go back to review it with the rest of the group in the recording? I mean, just run through the answers, what I have captured based on what I've studied, and then continue with the rest of the recording? Or how do you suggest I
The
face
practice
it?
test questions for chapters 1 and 2 and chapters 9, we don't actually go through those.
Oh,
I
you
I
don't. Okay.
basically I made them so easy. And they're literally in order of what they are in the Babok
Okay.
for chapters 1 and 2, because I wanted you to be able to walk through it and get used
Hmm.
to the numbering. Let me grab this real quick. So, plan stakeholder engagement. Chapter 3 is 3.2. So it's chapter 3, second task.
Uh-huh.
And then in that, purpose is always going to be point one. So 3.2.1. And then description is always going to be point two, all the way through all the knowledge areas. Um,
Okay.
so each section kind of has its own organization, but I wanted you with chapters 1 and 2 to get used to that, the numbering, how to find things, where to look it up if you don't understand.
Hmm.
So I made it super easy. Um,
Okay.
chapter 9 is a little bit more is a little bit less organized because I wanted you to read chapter 9 and go through it, but I made it super easy still.
Okay.
Chapter 9 is literally each thing. Let me grab it. Chapter 9. Here we are. Underlying competencies. There are 6 groups of underlying competencies, and with each one, visual thinking, you always have a purpose, a definition, and then effectiveness measures for each one. And so I put all this in the in the worksheet. And so
Okay.
then it's like a question about purpose and a question about effectiveness measures. I made it easy. So you're not
Okay.
going to, it's not going to be a heavy lift for you to catch up.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh. Okay.
if
And
you
the
can,
practice questions are, where can I find the practice test questions for each of these chapters?
I'll show you.
Okay.
You go into the file repository.
Hmm.
And so here's practice test questions for 1 and 2.
Okay. Okay.
Here's the unexpected terms.
Uh-huh.
And here's practice test questions for chapter 9. And let me
Okay.
just open this for you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, here's the layout.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go into the description and move down. So, like creative thinking, here's the purpose, here's the description, here's the effectiveness measures. This is like the Cliff Notes version of what you're going to find in
Mm.
the Babok. It's just to get you started. And
Okay.
then further down, there's a lot of information there, 15 pages of information. And then here's the questions itself. What is the purpose of creative thinking? And
Mm.
so you choose the best answer. And I need to say this just in case I'm sure I haven't said this to you yet. When we were writing the Babok, we were told that this has to be a book for international audience in every
Mm.
industry, in every level of maturity of the organization. So we made it kind of generic, which means
Mm.
that 90% of what you're going to read in the Babok, you're going to go, that's exactly the way I would do it. That's a step I would take. That's a person I would talk to. That's exactly the way I would do it.
Mm.
10%, however, are going to be, that's not quite the way I would do it. Or I would never
Okay.
do it that way. It could be that. Um, And what I liken it to is if you were to walk into a brand new company, you had a brand new job with this company, and you knew how to do business analysis and you knew how to do your job, but they came to you and they said, well, in this company, in the Babok company, the PMO wants you to fill out this form for every project. You just fill
Mm.
out the form, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it
yeah.
may not make sense to you. It's what
Mm.
they need.
Mm.
That's what you have to do to be able to pass the CBAP. You have to
Okay.
just know how the Babok company wants you to do it and
Mm.
be able to do it according to their rules so that you function within their structure.
Okay.
So, so as we walk through the Babok, you're going to find some stuff like that.
Mm.
Just make a note of it because it's possibly the way it could be done better than the way you
Mhm.
do it. I'll tell you a quick story, especially since it looks like we're going to be all alone today. Um, Whenever I started reading the Babok, first of all, I didn't find the IIBA until I'd been a business analyst for probably 4 years. I thought I'd made up the term. I didn't know that other people were business analysts. I mean, I'm analyzing business. I'm working on processes. I'm doing improvement. I'm improving communication. I made it up myself. And then I found out there's a professional organization. I will tell you,
Mhm.
I was so intimidated because these people were real business analysts and I thought I was just playing at it. Um, so I
Okay.
forced myself to go to the meeting, even though I was intimidated. By the second meeting, I was the vice president of training because they needed somebody who could read the slides, and I can do things like that. So I did
Okay.
that. Um, Whenever, and I was doing the training for the training classes by reading the slides. I didn't really open the Babok. I mean,
Oh.
I don't even think I had a copy of it. It was just like I'm supposed to read the slides. That's all I'm supposed to do, right? It
Mm.
It wasn't until several years later that I actually got a copy of the Babok. And then whenever I started actually reading it, I remember there's this one section, the very first knowledge area, business analysis, planning, and monitoring. It's about what to do before you even start a project. It's like, who do I think I'm going to be talking to? Where are they located? Are we doing it agile or waterfall? It's a very high level look at what your job's going to be in the project. There's a section in there called governance, and I'm like, what is this? In
Mm.
there, it actually says before you start a project, the project team makes an agreement on who gets to be the tiebreaker if there's a conflict, if there's a disagreement. Wouldn't that have been so great for me in so many projects to have had somebody that's like, hey guys, you can't agree, so the sponsor or the
Makes
PO
sense to
gets to
have.
make the decision, right?
Right, right,
I
right.
was like, I wish I had had that. So
Mhm.
some of the things in the Babok may not be the way you do it, but they might be a better idea, or they might just be
Mm.
an alternative idea that you could say, okay, other people do it this way, and I might consider it depending on the project. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay.
Yep. Awesome.
All right. So all of this is in your file repository. Um, Here are the technique groups. It's not in great order, and I can't sort it, unfortunately. Um,
Mm.
Oh, you know what? No, I
The
can't.
initial slide you shared, yeah, the ones which said the way it has been grouped, is that slide also placed here? The way
It
we are, yeah,
it's
this.
it. I have this in the chat, and I have it saved so you can see it's blue, so it's easy for you to find.
Hmm. Okay.
Let's see, what else do I have in here that's blue? The link to the meeting is in here. My goal is to make this the place that we do communication instead of is it going to be mixed in with all my emails? Or
Hmm.
am I looking for a message on LinkedIn? I've got so many ways for people to be able to contact me. Um,
Hmm.
I I just want to be able to have one place to know that if you're reaching out to me, I can be responsive.
Yep, makes sense.
Okay.
So,
So go
so in
ahead.
these meetings, generally we have the rest of the group also joining the same call, or is that at a separate time?
Well, it is at this time, and I'm surprised that they're not here. We have a very small
Those-
class right now. We have one person who has never attended. We have one person who's been very consistent, and we have another person that just started. So,
Okay.
and I have a brand new attendee that that's supposed to be joining, that's supposed to be registering. So We may
Mm-hmm.
have it may just be you and me working on your certification the entire
Okay.
time. I don't know. Whatever
Okay.
happens, we can deal with it.
But the
Um,
recording is from a previous batch.
the recording is
Also
for my
running at the
Thursday
same
night
time.
group. It's current batch, but it's a different class. So I've got a domestic, what I call a domestic class, which is it's at 8 o'clock on Thursday nights, which is like in the middle of the night for you.
Yeah.
2 o'clock in the morning or something. And
Mhm.
then I have this one for people that need this time zone. And um,
Okay.
I honestly think you watching the recording of the other class is going to be
Yeah.
more beneficial,
Makes sense.
is
Yeah.
especially because the conversation that we have, well,
Mhm.
I'll show you just a second, but the conversation that we have is so valuable because one student will say, "Wait a minute, I thought this," and another student will go, "Oh, wait, you forgot that word. Look at that word. You missed it." Or
Okay.
whenever you
Okay.
see this, it means this thing. Remember in the Babok here, and they teach each other, and I just get
Okay.
to sit back and read the questions. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, I have a lot to help with, but I
Very
get to.
interactive. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to show you this. Oh goodness. This is the master spreadsheet. Close
Mhm.
this out. It is overwhelming. I'm going to tell you now, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's a lot of material.
It is a lot. It is a lot. I've got lots of things here. I've literally been working on this for a good 4 years. Uh,
Hmm.
so the way that the Babok is organized in the knowledge areas specifically, there are there are 6 knowledge areas, chapters 3 through 8. So it's knowledge area 1 is chapter 3. Some people call knowledge areas KAs. Okay, so
Mhm.
KA1 is chapter 3. So
Okay.
it's business analysis, planning, and monitoring. Here's the definition of it. It's to organize and coordinate the efforts of the business analysts and stakeholders. Um, These tasks produce outputs that are used as key guidelines for other tasks throughout the Babok. So let's just walk through chapter 3. I realize you're not there yet, but I want you to
Mhm.
kind of get oriented on this document. Here are
Okay.
the lists of the 5 tasks that are in chapter 3. You
Mhm.
plan your approach, which is things like, is it waterfall or agile? Are my stakeholders here in the building or are they scattered all over the world? How are you
Mhm.
going to do this thing? Where are you going to keep? Well, no, that's not yet. You plan your stakeholder engagement, who is doing what role is each stakeholder playing of the ones that I know of? How am I going to communicate with them? You plan your governance, and this is the decision making, who gets to talk about making changes. It's like we had this requirement, but it looks like we need to change it, and we're in development. So we have somebody that can say that we can change it. Uh, Information management is literally, where are we going to put our documents? What format are we going to use? Are we going to share the documents, or are they going to be, private? Things like
Yeah,
that.
personal.
And then analyze your personal performance. So we set up here this goal of, we're going to have meetings with the stakeholders every week. Well,
Mhm.
as we go through it, we start going, we're only having meetings every other week because people keep canceling. So
Mm.
you look at this, is it something I could have done better? Did I send out an agenda? Did I communicate the need for the critical stakeholders to attend? What could I have done better? And then you take those learnings, yes, I could have done that better. You take those learnings throughout every single activity in the future and every single project. It becomes this over here, this column is your outputs. Here's your task. Here's the outputs. So for this one, this chapter is easy. Planned business analysis approach turns into business analyst approach. Planned stakeholder engagement turns into stakeholder engagement approach. I mean, it's like that's easy. This one gets down to business analysis performance assessment. You're going to use that document, that deliverable, for the rest of your career, because it's going to say, this is something I had problems with or I had challenges with, and this is how I think I should improve it. It's your own
Mhm.
retrospective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So,
But is it generally followed in most projects there? I mean, the performance assessment as such? Are we reading of it as theory? It's like the best way to approach this? Or is it suggested that, with a new project that we start and we start maintaining it as a live document and keep updating to it so it becomes more of a lessons learned towards the end of the project? I mean, how do you see that document? I haven't really come across anybody or in my, couple of years that I have seen any such assessment document. So,
I've only seen it in very mature BAs who have gone through this course or
okay.
or have their CBAP because
Okay.
they're introduced to the concept. It's this weird thing humans have that sometimes we need to see somebody doing it better than we are to go, "Oh, I didn't even know that was possible." And then
Right.
we can move into that if we choose.
Yeah.
To me, this is just doing it better.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
I mean,
Take a page.
because
Yeah.
honestly, I've got so much going on in my head. I don't have brain cells to keep it all. So I
Yeah.
just, kind of keep a
Got
little,
it. Yeah.
it's
Okay.
like keeping your calendar. You don't have to remember when you things are have to happen because it's on the calendar.
Mm.
This is kind of your performance improvement plan.
Mm. Okay. All right. Makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about a few things in here. This is your purpose column. The purpose of this thing is right here.
Mm.
The inputs, you have to have these things to be able to accomplish your task. And in
Mm.
this case, needs is business needs. So as
Mm.
you approach the project, what's the business trying to accomplish? What do they need? What do the
Okay.
stakeholders need to help me accomplish this? Then let me expand this. These are point one, point two, all the way down to point six with some explanation in here. These are the steps that you take to accomplish this task. So accomplishing this, you have a planning approach, you have your formality and level of detail of your deliverables, and all of this is in the BABOK. I just took it out of BABOK. You've
Mm.
got your business analysis activities. What will you actually be doing? The timing of the work, how often do you do it? When do you expect to do it? Do you have any deadlines? Um,
Mm.
which has elements that you've got to consider. The complexity and risk, and then acceptance. How are you going to measure acceptance of your work? Um, I had somebody the other day that was new to my class, and they said acceptance. Well, they didn't understand. So I had them go look at it in the background. But one of the things that they thought was interesting was if people aren't coming to your meetings, is it because they didn't get the invitation in time? Like a
Mm.
week early because they're very busy? Is it because you didn't put an agenda in there? I mean, there's all kinds of reasons that maybe they don't come. Maybe they didn't think they were important to the meeting, or they were a critical player, or they didn't know what questions you were going to ask, things like that. So what can we do to increase their participation? And
Mm.
then guidelines and tools. So these are the steps that you take. Guidelines and tools are things that contribute to your that task. Uh, you take your old performance assessments. You
Um,
look at. Go ahead.
sorry. Sorry if I'm interrupting you here. Perhaps I should park my questions to the end. I'm not sure what
No,
works
no.
better.
Ask me as we go because I literally can talk about this for hours. My
Okay.
husband
I
loves to
was
hear
just
me talk about it. I tell you.
sorry.
Okay.
Around the second point on the elements, which says formality and the level of detail of business analysis deliverables. I mean, what do we mean when we say formality around that point?
Um.
I mean,
Okay.
level of detail, yes, perhaps around
So
what
let's
artifacts and what is expected as a deliverable, but what is formality?
Formality is like when I worked at the nuclear power plant, I had
Mm.
very specific formats and documents that I had to turn in on a specific cadence because of the high regulatory
Mm.
element. Um, in some legal things, there's a different kind of formality. It has to be in this format. It has to be submitted to this judge. You have to have the signatures that are notarized. That's a
Mm.
totally different kind of formality. Uh, in Agile, we don't have so much formality, and we pretty much like that we don't have so much formality. But there are some elements that are required. So it's a lower level of formality and a different layout. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yeah. Okay. Not necessary in every project. Okay.
No, no, it's just a thing to consider. It's
Hmm.
like, do I even need this? I have walked into brand new, I did contracting for years. I walked into brand new industries and had to discover what the level of formality was, who the regulatory agencies were, what laws govern that particular industry. I worked in everything from nuclear power generation to greeting cards.
Okay.
Medical diagnostics, we rewrote an entire laboratory system for Quest Diagnostics. So it's all
Mhm.
of the tracking of all the specimens from before they even make the reservation for the blood draw until it was reported to the insurance agencies.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
I mean, so totally different. It's like walking into different planets. What's the gravity here? Can we breathe oxygen? It's very much like that. So it's level of formality and level of detail. And a
Mhm.
part of that is going to be predicated on, are you doing full waterfall? Are you
Mm.
doing full agile or somewhere in the middle?
Okay. Okay.
And almost everybody's doing somewhere in the middle, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
your own flavor.
Combination. Around the fourth point says
Yes.
timing of the business analysis work. But is there something that can be determined as advanced? I mean, in terms of planning, it's not necessary that we are able to meet those timelines, right? Sometimes it
Well,
could evolve based on the dependencies, the constraints.
it,
Is that something we can really plan in advance as part of the planning activity?
this is
Some
like
portion perhaps.
establishing your best guess. For instance, availability of resources. If you're told that the SME is on vacation for the first
Mm,
2 months of the project,
risk. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, you probably need to identify that as a risk.
Okay.
The priority and urgency of the initiative, that's pretty much given to you whenever you get the business case, but it can
Mm.
change, right?
Yeah.
So this is your best guess at all of this with the information you have at the beginning, and then you refine it as you go.
Okay. Mm. All right.
And then other concurrent initiatives will ask, are the people that you need for this project going to be pulled away? Um,
Mm.
as an example, when I worked at the nuclear power plant, I had people who were responsible for databases and regulatory things, highly regulated. But
Mm.
during refueling, whenever they pull the rods and refuel, those people totally changed jobs. They had a totally different job. And so
Mm.
they were not available to me to answer questions about fields or reviewing reports or anything like that. So I had to be aware of what their schedule was going to be for things like that.
Okay.
Um, Contract terms and regulatory deadlines. What if you're going to lose half of your workers that have this legacy knowledge because their contract is coming up? I
Mhm.
mean, this is just like things to think about so you can make your best guess at who you're going to talk to first, how you're going to run the project. And you
Okay.
make some of this with your PM and your
Mm.
sponsor. It's like, okay, how did we run it? How do we run it here in this company or in this industry? Is it going to be waterfall, agile? Um, I had somebody tell me the other day, every project should be agile, right? And it sounds really good especially if you're kind of new to agile, it's exciting. And of course, why wouldn't we all run it this way? And I said, well, wait a minute, let's talk about this. If you are planning to build a natural gas refinery, you
Mm.
can't say we're just going to set everything in here and we'll move it around whenever to where we need it as we get to it, because you got things that are 30 tons. You
Mm.
don't set it just anywhere. You set it where it's got to be. So you have to know where everything is going to be laid out, and it's got to be put in a certain order. And you've got chemicals and temperatures and things you've got to consider. So that is something you have to do waterfall. You have to know where every step is going to be before you even start.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you can't do it agile. You just can't. Did I see Amarachi has joined us?
Yes, yes. Hi, Tia.
Hi, Amarachi. I'm welcome. I'm so glad you were able to
Thank
join.
you. I
Hi,
didn't
I'm
get
Rach.
that. Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Thanks so much. How about you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Cool.
So
Sorry, I'm kind of outdoors, so you might hear a bit of noise here and there, but I'm fully here.
that's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
Chetna Amarachi is in Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
and she is in Switzerland.
Right. Yeah. I think I did write to you, Amrachi, sometime 2 weeks ago, I think. I did receive a response from you. Thank you so much for that. I'm
Very
glad we
good.
could connect here now.
Amarachi, I think you've frozen. I'm not sure we can
I
hear
think
you
there's
now.
a network lag. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm, all
Maybe
right.
maybe turn your camera back off because I think we can hear you better whenever your camera's off. Okay, let's get back to this. So these are the steps that you take to accomplish this task.
Mm,
Guidelines and tools are elements that you have to consider. What the business policies are, expert judgment, the methodologies and frameworks as I talked about, the stakeholder engagement approach. Notice that this guideline and tool is down here. You haven't even gotten to it yet. So this is
mhm,
kind of a circular thing. The output of this task is going to impact this. This is going to impact that. Um, this is not designed to be one thing happening at a time. This is you handle this job because it's what's in front of you and it needs to be done. So you're going to be doing multiple things at the same time, but this is put here on purpose so that you can have these to consider.
Okay.
Techniques, these are the techniques out of the babok, and they are the ones that are suggested for this task. You will
Mm,
never use all these techniques for this task. You're going to use the ones that work best for your project, for your team, and for you. And so
mhm,
you may find that you have just a few that you love that you use consistently, but
mhm,
these are put here so you have suggestions on new things that you might need to consider. Um,
mm,
for instance, estimation here. Estimation is how long is it going to take us and how much work is it going to take and things like that. Very, very different than the estimation we're going to have later, but it's still estimation.
mhm,
Stakeholders, these are the stakeholders that the babok says need to be involved in it, and each one has a specific role. And I'll show you what those are. It's in your babok, but I'll show you where I have it in the spreadsheet.
mhm.
But these are the four stakeholders that you typically would work with. It doesn't mean that you can't work with other stakeholders, but you need to know what their roles are in this task to be able to answer it for the question.
Okay. I'm
And
quite
then
curious to know of the regulator. I don't think I've come across somebody in that role as such. Is it from a legal perspective for finance when we say regulator?
it would be regulators. Um,
Compliance risk regulatory associated with that?
exactly, exactly. They're the people that say, you need to conform to these guidelines.
Okay.
For instance, in insurance, the regulators and laws and
Mm,
audits tell us that we have to hold all documents for 7 years from the
mm,
time the claim is closed. So if
okay.
the claim isn't closed, it could be 20 years because the claim has been open for so long. Um, but the regulator is going to tell us that type of information or
Mhm.
provide that information to us. They might not tell us.
Okay, clear.
And then this is the output. And it's important that you understand what the inputs are, what the elements are. Um, you're going to need to memorize a lot of stuff. But the easiest way to do it is picture yourself going through this
Mm,
specific task. How would I go through this? Why would I talk to the domain SME? Why would I talk to the PM? Why would I talk to the sponsor? Why would I talk to the regulator? And I'll show you their roles over here. So if you move
mm,
over here to the side, I'm going to skip this for now. So the domain SME for this task can be a source of risk if when their involvement is required and availability is lacking. So there's a question in our test bank that said, if the domain SME is not available, how would you respond? So we identified as a source of risk.
okay.
It's that kind of logic. Uh, the approach taken may depend on the availability and level of the domain SME's involvement with the initiative. So,
Mm,
can we do it agile? That means that we have access to them almost daily.
mm,
Um, but if we only have access to them for a very short window, maybe we need to look more waterfall and get all the information from them at once.
Mhm.
And then I have the same thing for each of the other roles in here. The project manager does this, the regulator does this. In this case, the regulator may be needed to provide approval for the aspects of our approach and how
Mm.
we make decisions. You know, they may say, well, we need you to submit these forms before
Mhm.
the project goes live. We need you to, do something. And it's not necessarily the BA, but we need to have it in our, it has to be done. Find out who
Okay.
needs to do it. And we always are aware of audits. Um, pardon me. I did not know so much about audits until I worked at the nuclear power plant and
Mhm.
discovered that they audit everything.
Mm.
They require drills on a monthly basis, which means that they will call a drill, and that means everybody has to leave their homes and come to the location and perform their work. And the people are there with clipboards. I mean, true audit. And then they do a review of, I mean, all the different agencies are there with clipboards, and they do a review of their audits. And if they find it lacking, they can penalize, they can fine, and they can increase their audit
Oh,
frequency.
okay.
So audits are a big deal, but in insurance, it doesn't seem like it would be such a big deal. I'm sorry, I skipped something. Let me go back over here. In insurance, the audits occur at a state level here in the United States. Any state can say, I want you to show me all the claims. I want you to show
Mhm.
me how many policyholders you have for my state. I want you to, I mean, can demand all kinds of information and
Mm.
say, I want it in a week. So people are jumping because if those state agencies aren't satisfied, they can close down your business in their state. I mean,
Okay.
it's huge. So
Right.
for each chapter, there is this, and this is very conceptual. Let me pull this down just a bit. So it's called the BACOM. I don't remember why right now. But it's the how is change in this knowledge area? What is need in this knowledge area? So, for instance, need is you choose the business analysis approach that provides adequate analysis for the change. So you figure out your approach, and that's the need. Then you've got your solutions, stakeholders, value, context. There will be some questions about stuff like this on the test. It's not huge, but
Mm.
I'm giving you all the information I can so that you're prepared. So that's what these columns are. Yes, ma'am.
Tia, one question. So when you say choose your business analysis approach, it is left to the business analyst to determine whether they want to opt for brainstorming or interviews or documentation
Typically.
exchange, the way in which the
Mhm.
plan, I mean, or the business analysis needs to be done. So it is with the
Yes.
business analyst to determine, right, the responsibility of how they want to engage with the SMEs or the stakeholders. Okay.
In most organizations, the business analyst is responsible for planning their own work. Some
Mm.
organizations, you're going to have a PMO or a center of
Mhm.
excellence, and they're going to dictate, we want this document, you must do this. We want everybody to do this. Everybody must use Miro or Mural, those type of things that they can dictate. But typically, according to the BABOK, you plan your own work.
Okay.
I've got stakeholders on 5 different continents. Do I want to do interviews? Do I want to send out a survey?
Mhm.
How am I going to get the information from them?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not only do we have the knowledge areas and then within that, the tasks. Within the task come the elements, which are the steps of the task. And then the outputs. We also have in the knowledge areas the concepts.
Mhm.
And I have that here. Here are all the concepts by knowledge area, so you can do a comparison across the different knowledge areas of here's change, here's need. How is
Okay.
this? How is it laid out?
So this is something which I need to know by heart or
No, no, just
not.
understand it at a high level of
Mm.
of what what are these for this? Just read through it once.
Okay.
And then as we get deeper into the knowledge areas and actually working with the questions,
Next.
read through it again, and then before you take your test, read through it again, and you should probably be fine.
So the inputs output is perhaps one area which I should really know for every KA.
Inputs and outputs for every task, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, you're going to learn it so well that you're going to know the elements also.
Okay.
I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm going to tell you that you're going to be able to know this so well that you're not going to have to look at it.
Mm.
I mean,
Everything in blue, basically. Purpose, input, elements,
yeah,
techniques, stakeholders, and output. Okay.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of it you're going to know in pieces.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
it is a lot, but that's why we take 7 months to do it. I mean,
Mm.
can you imagine somebody saying, "Oh no, we're going to teach it all to you in 2 weeks"?
Yeah,
This
doesn't make
book
sense.
is 522 pages in English. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know what it
Too
is in
much
the other speak
information.
languages, but it's a
Mm.
lot of information. And as I
Mm.
said, a lot of it is the way you would do it, but you got to be using their terminology. You know,
Mm.
you may have done it this way in 5 other companies, but if you didn't use their terminology, you're not going to be able to put it on the test the same way. I need
Right.
I need you to learn the Babok so well that whenever you see something that is a quote out of the Babok, that you just know. And if
Okay.
you see it and it's messed up, and it's like, no, they changed that word. It's
Mm.
mandatory instead of optional, or whatever. You just
Yep.
know it's not right. So you're going to learn it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the books themselves. I told you about the spiral bound, did I?
Sorry. The.
Okay, so whenever you get your real copy of the book, it's
Uh-huh.
not going to come spiral bound. It's going to come with a glue binding. And what I've
Okay.
discovered is two things. The knowledge areas are in the
Mm-hmm.
middle of the book, and the techniques are at the end of the book. And so as you're reading through a knowledge area and you're saying, it says to use that technique, wait a minute, then you go to the end of the book and you look at that technique and then you go back and forth, the pages start falling out
Mm.
because
Okay.
it's you you're going to spend 160 hours studying this book, opening it, going back and forth. The pages are not made. The glue
Mm.
binding is not made for that. So I went to my local store that does copies and stuff, and I had them cut off my binding and put this on, and I put my knowledge areas in one book and the rest of it in another book. And actually, to be honest, I had them put it in two books. This is
Mhm.
techniques. This is chapters 1, 2, 9, and 11. And this is my knowledge areas. So I can
Ah,
lay them out side by side and look at stuff. And I don't have to
okay.
worry about losing pages because wouldn't it be horrible if you're studying something and you've lost a page?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So sometimes if you have an employer, they'll do that for you. But I have the thick plastic copy covers
Mm.
on mine, and
Mhm.
it's so much easier for me to
Mm.
to flip through stuff and have them and lay them out, and or just carry one at a time with me instead of carrying the whole big book with
Yeah,
me.
makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, Amarachi, do you have anything you would like to tell her? Well, Amarachi's doesn't even have a microphone. Um, I tell you what, Amarachi, I'll watch the chat. The elements are steps taken when performing the task. Yes, this is true. All right. So, what I'd like to do is give you. Let's go to Slack and
So, Thea, do you propose with the next session, I try and do a brief read through of the exact chapter that we are going to be running through in the next class? I pre-read
I
that.
don't know what your schedule is or what you're able to do because I know you have a little one and I know it takes a lot of brain cells.
Yep.
So So I'm going to tell you the most important thing probably is read chapters 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
The reason I want you to read chapters 1, 2, and 3 is 1 and 2 are the foundation. It's like, what is the BABOK? Who is the
Mm-hmm.
business analyst? You need to have that before you hit chapter 3.
Okay.
If you can look at the practice test questions for chapters 1 and 2, this is a way for you to measure how much you know and get used to it. It's not mandatory at all.
Okay.
This is a
Okay.
resource for you. If you can
Mm-hmm.
also read through chapter 9, just to know it's there, it's like, oh yeah, decision making is there, active
Mm-hmm.
listening is there. And so whenever we hit things about it in the different chapters, you could go, oh yeah, I know where to look for that. Just read through that. You don't have to go through the practice test questions for that one either, but it's here for you if you want to. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, it might be easier to read it in this than it would be because I have it. Here's creative thinking. Here's the purpose, description, effectiveness measures.
Summarized version.
It
Okay.
takes this much space here
Uh,
whenever it's this
correct.
much there.
Okay.
It's more
Okay.
thorough in the BABOK. I'm going to tell you that. This is
Okay.
like the minimum things that you need to learn for
Uh-huh.
chapter 9.
Uh,
And you don't have to memorize it. Just know it's there. Um, and think about as think about creative thinking. It's like, well, yeah, but so how would I prove I'm doing effective creative thinking? These are the ways you do it. And
mm,
then go to the next one. Here's decision making. This is the purpose. Here's the description. How do I know I'm doing it well? And imagine yourself, okay, I've got clear communication of options. That
mm,
proves I'm doing creative thinking. I have reduced uncertainty in my team or myself. That proves I'm doing. If you just go through this, I think it would be sufficient.
okay. Okay.
I'm not going to tell you not to read the Babok, but
Mm,
realizing you're kind of in a time crunch, I think it would be okay.
yeah.
So if you can get 1, 2, and 3 read before
Mm,
next week and be
mm,
ready, we're going to answer practice test questions for chapter 3 next week. So let me show
okay.
you what that looks like. So this is the service that we use. It's from Watermark Learning, and
Mm-hmm.
this is the way that I've discovered it works so effectively for my students. And so what I do is I choose just one knowledge area. So
Mm,
we're gonna practice here. Um,
okay.
and I'm going to read the question. Which types of
Mm,
models can be used to define and document the business analysis approach? The business analysis approach, this tells us which task we're in. We
mm,
are in the first task, which is determine the business analyst
right.
approach, right? And so
Mm,
within that, we know which techniques there are because there's a finite number of techniques that go along with that. That's why I gave you that spreadsheet.
mm,
And so which types of models? So only a certain number of those techniques are models. So we're in plan business analysis approach. And here's our techniques.
scope modeling. Okay.
Scope modeling, that's a good one. I don't see
Mm-hmm.
any others that are, process modeling.
Oh, process modeling as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
so let's go back and look at this. Process, data, scope, or project. So we want to define and document the business analysis approach. I don't think that's going to be scope. It might
Could
be
be
more like process.
process. Yeah, I would think process
So
as well.
we can eliminate object and we can eliminate data.
Yeah.
So let's guess on process, and we're going to check our answer. And it's going to say process models can be
Okay.
used to define and document the business analysis approach. And it's going to tell you exactly where in the Babok it talks about this. And
Okay.
so that's why I wanted you to understand the numbering. So
Mm,
if you were to get that wrong, what I would hope that you would do is grab a Post-it note and put 3.1.6 on it and set it aside, and then also do 10.35 because this is the technique back in chapter 10. And then
mm,
whenever you're studying, you can say, okay, and put your post-it notes up here. I need to study these things. And then when
mm.
you study it, learn it, take off your post-it note. That way you know what you have left to learn. You don't have to try to keep a list in your head of what you have left to learn. Keep it visual. And
Mhm.
then we'll ask some more questions and see if you get it right this time. Because
Okay.
they ask these questions from different perspectives. So you have a chance to check, do you know 3.1.6? Do you know this technique? And
Yeah.
then we'll go to the next question and do it all over again. So
Mhm.
this one is, at what point in the project timeline would a BA typically modify the business analysis plans? So there's a part in chapter 3, that it talks about what is the trigger? What is the thing that makes us want to modify? So we determine which task that is, and then we read the answers. When requested to do so by the project manager, after the initial risk assessment, but before the division of work strategy, after performance metrics have been collected and analyzed, or after each stakeholder interview. And so my first question is always going to be, which answer can we eliminate? And let's say we say we're going to eliminate that one.
First one. Yeah.
Yeah. So which one do you think is the best answer? Knowing you haven't read it, let's just guess.
Performance metrics.
I think that that's a reasonable answer, but remember, we're talking about in the project
Project.
timeline.
After the initial risk assessment, but before the division of work strategy.
Let's try it. You were right about process metrics. So there is no trigger for modifying plans at this point, but at this
Okay.
point when the process metrics have been collected, process point variances are recognized and plans may need to change to incorporate preventative or corrective actions. It can happen anytime throughout the life cycle of a project.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So within the project timeline, anytime within the project,
Yeah.
it's almost a trick question in some ways, but
Yeah.
it tells us what we need to learn, right? Anytime we get something, a mistake, a answer wrong, it tells us what we can do better. So we identify it. I do the post-it note and slap it in my
Mm.
BABOK.
But how often do these performance metrics be collected? I mean, we're talking about a project timeline, right? Is it, I don't know, if it's in an agile manner, then yeah, perhaps retrospective, and then you collect feedback and then measure performance.
Let's
Perhaps
see what.
then how
I'm
do
just
we
going
determine whether this is going to be following an agile or a waterfall model or
Let's
anything?
go to 3.5.4. Next page. So let me find process metrics. There are paragraphs here. So I'm going to let you read it yourself.
I'm just picking up the page. 3.5 point.
Page 48.
Page 48.
So it
Yep.
starts that it depends upon the particular organization or initiative. And then if current measures exist and down assessment measures, you can use those, but you can also elicit assessment measures from stakeholders. You know, are we meeting the deadlines that you have, things like that. So you got stuff you need to read to get that answer. But
Okay.
I like this tool, the watermark learning tool, because it tells us, we are able to answer 80% of the questions. So
Yeah.
let's talk about how it what kind of score you have to get to be able to pass the test.
Uh-huh.
First of all, it's not published. We don't know what kind of score. And the score is based upon the people that are currently taking the test, like within the last 3 months. So if people are doing great, the score is going to have to be higher because they do a percentage of the top. So if the top 30% of the people mean that the minimum score is 65, that's what it is. I have a
Okay.
friend who is very knowledgeable. He believes that the score needs to be 65 or higher. I go for 75. That way I can try to get people in there.
Mhm.
So as we finish these practice test questions and we get to the end, we submit the exam and view the results, and it will tell us what our score is. It tells us also we just didn't answer all the questions for this particular one. And if this were one that we were doing more than one knowledge area, it has a breakdown by knowledge area. So as we get deeper into this and we've gone through more of the knowledge areas, you're going to be able to see, we did pretty good on 6, but we didn't do so great on 8. I need to study 8 more. But as we answer questions and you say that's not the one I would have answered, you do your post-it note thing, and so you know exactly what you need to answer. One of the things I've seen in classes over and over is people are like, as a class, we do so good, because you know this section and I know this section. Can we just take the test together? It doesn't work that way. You're not going to do it that way. So you have to know what you know for your book and for your study and your test. And so
These tests cannot be attempted again, over again.
you
No.
can. Oh, this test that's on the screen, we're going to do this every week. After we get started, after we get everybody into the knowledge areas, we're going to do this every week. And we will test over and over. We typically can go through 25 questions with good conversation in an hour and a half. I used to try to do it in an hour and it doesn't work so well, so I expanded it to an hour and a half. I see that Jose has joined us. Welcome, Jose.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, we have a new student with us.
Hi,
Jose,
Chetan.
Jose, did you tell me you were in Scotland?
Dublin, Ireland.
Dublin, in Ireland. Okay. So we will go through these practice test questions every week. Jose, were you able to read chapter 3?
Yes, chapter 3 and some of the techniques.
Excellent, excellent. All right. So I think, Chetna, I've gotten you up to speed on what we're doing. You have some catch up to do in your reading. Jose, why don't we go through practice test questions for chapter 3? And Chetna, I don't have you in here yet. Let me add you here real quick. If you can drop into the chat your Gmail email ID.
Yep, coming up.
And I will add you right now. I think that you should be able to access it immediately.
Okay. I've just shared my email ID.
Got it? It's going to send you an email. Okay. So whenever you get it, you can open up the file repository and you can access this one right here. This is the master, that spreadsheet that I showed you that's really complicated, but it's the one that has the tasks broken down by knowledge area. And that's useful as we say it again.
One moment, I'm just connecting to see if I have access.
Okay.
I did receive your invite. Yep, I received the code. Join channel. Yeah, IIBA International, but where do I find all the documents that you listed? Is it under file repository? Yeah, file repository it is. Okay.
So you can open this and go ahead and download it for your own use because you can't read it this way. I just encourage you to just download it this way.
Okay, okay.
I don't see a way to download it. That's weird.
I don't see a download option. Move to folders.
Save for later.
No, I don't see a download option. Perhaps after I access the document.
It's that little cloud with the arrow.
Oh, this one. Yes, of course.
There
There's download.
Yeah, I see
I totally
it.
missed it. We would be so lost if you hadn't joined us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose.
Okay. So let's go through some practice test questions. While you have this document open, you're going to be able to see the inputs, the outputs, the elements, the guidelines and tools, the techniques, the roles. So let's start a new exam. And Jose is going to be our person. So Jose, which guideline or tool would help in defining the limits within which decisions can be made or must be made? So in what task are we defining the limits within which decisions must be made? Make this smaller. Which one of these tasks is it?
Plan business analysis approach.
That is, we do have to make decisions in that, but whenever we're talking about how decisions can be made, we're talking about the whole project. So that's like governance.
Okay.
Governance. Yeah.
Okay. So if we're in governance, we're talking about which guideline and tool. So let's go back to this. In governance, we have a finite number of guidelines and tools. And let me expand this one just a bit so you can be sure we see them all. It's our performance assessment, business policies, current state description, and legal and regulatory information. That's the extent of our guidelines and tools for governance. So we want to define the limits within which decisions must be made. Would that be current state description, business analysis, performance assessment, business policies, or legal and regulatory information? First, let's eliminate one. Which one should
Business
we eliminate?
policies.
Business policies is one of the guidelines and tools. Do we have any that are not guidelines and tools for this task?
Performance assessment was it?
The current state.
Current state description is one of the guidelines and tools.
Legal and regulatory was also.
Okay, these are all guidelines and tools. So which ones would not be defining the limits within which decisions are made?
The ones that will not be business analysis performance assessment.
Okay, so probably these two. So which one do we think, according to the BABOK, is the correct answer?
The business policies.
Business policies.
All right. Limits may be described by regulators, contractors, agreements, warranties, certifications, and other legal obligations. So had we gotten that wrong, I would ask you to grab a Post-it note and do 3.3.5, and you can put it in your BABOK when you get ready to study, but you know exactly which one it is that you had gotten wrong. But y'all got it right. Good job. Let's go to the next one. Approval of requirements and designs may be formal or informal. Which of the following tasks defines how approval and prioritization decisions are made? So it's asking which task, so I'm not going to ask you which task. Approval here, which task is that? Is that plan business analysis governance, approve requirements, plan business analysis information management, or plan business analysis approach? Which one can we eliminate? One of these is not a task.
D.
Approve requirements is not a task.
Requirements.
So we can eliminate that one. So which one is it that we determine if they should be formal or informal?
Information. Actually, all the three sounds to be right.
Business analysis approach.
Okay, let's try it. So this one defines how the appropriate method for conducting our activities are. This one tells us if it's going to be formal or informal. It defines all the decisions on regarding how all facets of requirements and designs. So plan business analysis governance is formal or informal. So that's 3.3.2. A business, let me stop for a second. You folks are just starting. I don't expect you to get all this right, okay? So don't beat yourself up. Beating yourself up actually releases chemicals in your brain, which makes it impossible to learn and remember. I don't know why that is, but it's true. Beating yourself up is hurting you, so don't let yourself beat yourself up. A business analyst intern wants to be able to make trade-offs between requirements, identify stakeholders affected by potential changes, and understand the effects of the proposed change. Where would you advise the intern to look for this information? So this information is in a source, probably a document.
Traceability document.
So would it be business policies document, traceability document, repository, or requirement attributes?
Traceability document. I think, I feel.
That's a good guess. Any other votes?
The traceability. Yeah.
Okay, 2 votes. Let's go. So the correct answer, here's the deal. The BABOK uses words differently. That's one reason I created that unexpected words document. Requirement attributes allow the BA to associate information with an individual or related groups of requirements. Traceability is a useful tool for performing impact analysis on changing requirements, but not the impact of the change itself. And that's what we wanted to do here. Understand the effect of the proposed change. So that'd be a traceability document as incorrect. And the correct information for that is going to be 3.4.4.6. Okay? All right. We have a few more minutes. Let's keep answering questions. Which of the following statements accurately describes stakeholders who would be engaged in the planned stakeholder engagement task? So we know which task it is. We don't have to determine that. And we want to talk about which stakeholders it is. There's a finite number of stakeholders attached to the planned stakeholder engagement task. And you can see that again in here. We make this a little bit smaller. So it is the same as 3.1, so it's domain SME, PM, sponsor, regulator, also the customer, end user, and supplier. Those are the stakeholders for this task. So for accurately describe stakeholder who would be engaged in the planning, so only one of the stakeholders is engaged in the planning, and so you have to know the role of the stakeholder in that task. A customer is a source of external stakeholders, while an end user is a source of internal stakeholders. The BABOK uses these terms differently than you might, so I want you to be aware of that now. A supplier is a source of internal stakeholders, while a customer is a source of external stakeholders. Both customers and end users are sources of external stakeholders. Or a supplier is a source of internal stakeholders, while an end user is a source of external stakeholders. I know it gets confusing because it's like which ones match. Some of these don't match. And instead of asking you which ones we can eliminate, I'm going to ask you what you think the answer is.
One question here. What is the supplier here when we refer to a supplier?
A supplier is like the people that provide the boxes for your product, the people that provide the chairs for your desks. Those are suppliers, outside companies.
Okay, external stakeholders. So I think that rules out D, right? It's a source of internal stakeholders. D.
Oh, D is in dog?
Yeah.
Okay. Whenever y'all say B, C, and D, if you can say like D is in dog, I hear it a lot better.
D is in dog. Because here I think it's
Okay, I'm thinking C.
You think C is the correct answer, Amarachi?
I'm ruling out D, Tia.
Yes, I'm thinking C.
Okay, let's test C. So customers are a source of external stakeholders, while end users typically internal. The BABOK uses end user as like the people that sit in customer service. That would be the end user of the UI that you create for them. They're in-house. They are part of your company. They're end users. Customers are outside of your organization. So that's the way the BABOK uses those two. So end user is a term which typically describes internal stakeholders, while customers typically refer to external stakeholders. So that's 3.2.7. Nick reported on the results of an analysis and identified any necessary preventative, corrective, or developmental actions. Why is this important? So if we're looking at preventative, corrective, or developmental actions, which of the 5 tasks in Chapter 3 are we talking about? Let's look at them. See if I can move it over here. There's your 5 tasks.
Identify business analysis, performance improvements.
All right. Let me just make this smaller. That's small. There we go. So if we're in that task, so potential improvements will form part of the organizational's process assets to keep a record for reference as input into the next performance review. The potential improvements will be used in the post-implementation review, or once potential performance improvements are identified, they become guidelines for the next time that task is executed. Which one do you think is the correct answer?
D.
Got 1 vote for D. Anybody else? What do you think, Jose?
D for
Did you say
can you hear
D?
me?
Yes.
D for Denmark. Yeah.
D for Denmark. Let's check D. Excellent. Good reasoning. Identifying improvements for future consideration serves as a continuous improvement loop. It is good to get the right answer, right? But look at that. You used logic. Some of y'all haven't even read this part yet, but use logic to understand it. So your reasoning is very strong. Which of the following would you consider when searching for external stakeholders? So which tasks do we plan our stakeholders?
Plan stakeholder engagement.
That is correct. So in plan stakeholder engagement, whenever in the task, it says whenever you're searching for external stakeholders, you can use this thing or this resource. Would it be shareholders, end users, stakeholders influence, or project charter?
End users.
Okay, remember end users are people that sit inside of your company.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Shareholders are also internal.
They don't necessarily have to be internal. They can be people that own shares, but they're outside of the organization. Let's try it. Shareholders, along with governing bodies, existing contracts, anticipated vendors, customers, and suppliers, will help identify external stakeholders. You've got a quote here out of the BABOK. Make sense?
3,
Yeah.
2, 4, 1. Okay.
Good. Thank you. XYZ is a new organization that uses agile methodology. The organization is looking for an easy way to share business analysis information. The stakeholders decide on a whiteboard. Is this a viable solution? Now remember, this is always at the end according to the BABOK. Okay? So it's giving us this information, has nothing to do with the question. They want an easy way to share information, and the stakeholders decide on a whiteboard. According to the BABOK, yes, a whiteboard is a viable information management tool. B, no, the information shared on a whiteboard can be too easily altered or erased, and so is too risky. C, yes, stakeholders involved in the project are in the best position to determine how to share business analysis information. Or D, Information management tools must enable the reuse of business analysis information. So the BABOK actually has a sentence that says, are whiteboards okay or not? And you don't know unless you've read it. Has anybody read it?
Don't remember this part because
What do you think the answer might be?
I'm guessing either A or D.
And so it's a
because
yes or
the
no.
whiteboard can be used for brainstorming,
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
example, but it isn't a
artifact. I mean, you
good
cannot.
way to manage that information, to record and keep track of the information. So that's why.
That's your real life experience talking. But the BABOK says, according to the BABOK, each information uses some tools to store, retrieve, and share business analysis information. These information management tools may be as simple as a whiteboard or as complex as a global wiki. Now, here's a weird thing. On the actual test, you're probably not going to see this kind of question. It will give you a scenario and it will ask you what the BABOK says about it, right? Or what would you do next? What we're going to learn using the watermark is the concepts. What does the BABOK say? What are the concepts? How are they related? What are the elements of these? And then we're going to apply those to scenarios as we get a little bit deeper into our studies. The scenarios are what you're going to see on the CBAP. But until you get the concepts and the relationships, the scenarios, you can't answer them accurately.
Hmm.
Which of the following statements is accurate about the planned business analysis information management task? So we know which task it is.
Hmm.
Whoa, didn't know I was going to do that. So this is the task. The purpose of this task is to ensure that requirements are accurate and current throughout the life cycle and facilitate reuse where appropriate. The tool that is chosen to manage information only needs to store the requirements and designs. Requirements that are potential candidates for long-term use are those the organization must meet on an ongoing basis. Information management entails identifying characteristics about the information that must be reused. So we want to know which one is about information management task.
I'll go with A.
You like A?
Through the life cycle and reuse. Yeah, I'll go with A.
Okay. Anybody else?
A. Still A.
Okay,
Yes,
two
well,
A's.
Yeah.
So this one is the part of the purpose. Requirements that are potential candidates for long-term use are those the organization must meet on an ongoing basis. And the examples include regulatory requirements, quality standards, service level agreements or SLAs, and contractual obligations. That's 3.4.4. This one sounds good, but it's actually the purpose of a task that's in chapter 5. It's close though, just not correct. But you haven't even read this, so I'm not doubting that you can get this easily. Okay, we are at the end of our time. So I think you understand what we're going to be doing and you know where your resources are. Jose, did you have any questions for me?
uh, yes. Let me open.
Tia, I have one question. This
Yes.
watermark learning, is that
Yes.
also in the Slack repository?
No. This is a service that typically you have to pay for. And
Okay.
what it gets you is for if you pay for the CBAP exam, you have 1,200 questions distributed amongst the 6 knowledge areas, and you can take it as much as you want. One of the things I like about it is if we go to the simulation, you're going to get let me find one of the long ones. You're going to get questions that are similar to what's on the test. Here's a long essay,
Uh-huh.
and then there's going to be 3 questions based upon this. So this is similar, more similar to the test. The test has things like this, and then it has the shorter questions as well.
Uh-huh.
So you have access to this. I do have a discount code of 40% off for it, which means that you can, I think you get 90 days of access for the price of 30 days kind of thing. And I think I've already put that in your chat. Oh no, I put it in the repository. It's down here at the bottom. Here's the discount code.
Okay.
So if you want to do this, you can do it on your own. I don't feel like you need to do it this early. But as you get closer to taking your test, it's really good to be able to do it on your own and not having the classes influence and see how much you know about each of the different knowledge areas.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. And Jose, did you have questions?
Yes. The techniques on 4 and 5, they are for chapters 4 and 5, right?
Let me go to that graphic. So, techniques
Okay.
group 4 goes to chapter 4. And let me back up. Whenever you look in the BABOK at the techniques, it says this technique can be used for these 20 tasks. And so it's kind of distributed in different places. I put it in this order intentionally because whenever I am working in this chapter, in this knowledge area, these are some of the techniques that I use. So I did it the way I think it makes sense because it could be assigned any other way. But we will talk about these techniques as we go through chapter 4. We'll talk about these techniques as we go through chapter 3. And then these 2 belong to chapter 6. So I did color code it intentionally for these things. Good catching. Any other questions, Jose? Or does that make sense?
I need to read again chapter 3 this time, not skim it, actually read it.
You do. You do. This is seriously one of those things that you cannot skip a sentence. You cannot skip a word. And you need to stop and think. So when I'm doing this, what would it feel like? What would I do? What would I consider? I'm using this technique to do this and marry the technique with that knowledge area, with that task. And imagine yourself doing it. It's the only way for you to internalize all this information.
Okay.
So you have a big mountain ahead of you, but we're not going to go all the way up to the top in one day. We've got 7 months. I do it very systematically. I've done it with literally hundreds of students now. I'm going to tell you, you're going to hit a place where you think it's too much. Why did I even start this? But you've gotten so much information in your head. Let's just finish it. And I'm going to also tell you that you need to plan to take your test in probably October or November. That's going to be, we've gone through the whole course. You've done 7 months of study. Plan on October or November. The reason I particularly like November in the United States is because we have a 3-day holiday and a week that we can take off. And so I tell people, take your test at the beginning of that week. And you might have a week like this that you can do. Take your test at the beginning of the week. And that way, if you don't pass the first time, you have all this new information about what it's like to take the test, what the UI looks like, what it feels to sit in the learning center, in the proctored learning center, what it's like to go through them doing this search to be sure that you're not taking anything in that you're not supposed to. You have all that information and you know what you had trouble with on the test. So take that week and study, and then you can take it at the end of that week, probably. You just have to go home and reschedule to your retake if you have to. But don't lose all that information you have in your head. So we'll be finished by October. So, you know, don't put it off very much longer. I've had people put it off and they start doing worse and worse and worse on their tests because they get in their own head. You know, they have the practice test questions. They do worse and then they get frustrated and discouraged and they're still studying every day. So if you put it off too long, it hurts you. October or November of this year, we will not fill out the application yet. You don't have a way to make reservations yet. Just make a plan that that's what you're going to do. Start telling people, I'm taking my CBAP test in, you know, mid-October, whatever. Just start creating accountability with your friends and family. Okay? Any other questions?
Yep.
Okay. Next week, we will go over chapter 3 again. If you are able to catch up with us, if you did every single thing that we have done so far, you would read chapters 1 and 2, go through the practice test questions, read the unexpected terms. Don't memorize it. Just know the BABOK says it differently than I think, and just understand what the BABOK says. Read through chapter 9. If you can, if the practice test questions are beneficial for you, go through that. Go through these 2 groups of techniques. I typically don't tell you to do 2 packets in a week, but that's where we are right now. And then read through chapter 3, and we're on the practice test questions here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So
We have done.
you are. I don't expect you to get it done this week because you just started. But this is where we are right now. We are at about right here.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. If you can join us at the beginning of the class, we can get a whole lot more done. So I will see you all next week at 8 o'clock Eastern time at the beginning of the class, and we will start. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to you making progress.
Yeah. Thank you, Tia. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Send me
again.
questions on Slack if you have any questions.
Yep.
That's what this is for. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye. All. Bye.